Okay, here's part 2, Scott High School, of the video lecture series on religion. This is the last slide that we saw, the end of the first part. So we're going to move forward now. Now, a definition for the word religion is difficult to come up with. Religion is hard to define because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Again, if we were sitting in class, I would ask you collectively, but I'll ask you just to kind of think to yourself, how would you define the word religion? I don't know how I would do it. I have religious beliefs myself. I've attended church my entire life, practically, and I've taught classes on religion and other subjects that touch the areas of religion. And I would still have a hard time writing down a definition for religion. So as you're thinking about that, here's what I can give you at this point. Features of any definition or any endeavor to define religion. First of all, the definition of religion should come after an analysis of religion. And there's not just one religion. We can't define religion in terms of our one faith. For example, I'm a Christian, but I can't define religion just through my Christian lens because there are Hindus, there are Muslims, there are Jews, there are other religions, and they may not define religion the way that I would. So we have to find a definition that works for everything, for everybody. Religion is hard to define, and no definition is carved into stone. Even within one specific denomination, a lot of times we can't agree on what religion means or what it is. So no one single religion, again, can be used as a basis for social cohesion or a base of worldwide comparison, because all religions are different. Now, a religious group should share common goals, and the larger the group, the more difficult it is to arrive at the following. Now, these are just basic group processes. You could just take religion out of this conversation at this point, and we could talk about just these factors as group processes. Common goals, regardless of what kind of group, whether it's a Sunday school class, a religious group, whether it's a group that you have with your friends at school, a work group, whatever. The larger the group gets, the more difficult it is for everybody to agree on common goals. Is that not true? Think about it. I think back to my playground days in grade school. When we had 4 or 5 kids, playing a game, we could pretty much agree on what we were trying to do. The more people we added to our pickup game of basketball or football or whatever we were playing, the harder it became to arrive at common goals. We would fight over the rules more than we would actually play the game. So the larger the group gets, the harder it is to arrive at common goals and to establish norms. If you remember, norms are expected ways of behaving or thinking. And again, small groups tend to agree on things more. The larger the group gets, the more division, the more people do not agree, and then you start to see groups splitting off when they get bigger. Agreed upon roles are harder to arrive at. Who does what? Who's in charge? Who's not in charge? Division of labor. That means assigned positions within a group. The larger the group gets, the more roles you have to assign to people. How many leaders are you going to have? If you have 5 people in a group, it might be easy. There may be one clear leader and the rest follow. If you have a group of 1,000, who's in charge? Who's under that person? Are you going to have assistant leaders or vice presidents or whatever? And then a status system. It's more difficult to assign status. Who's more important? Who's less important? The bigger that the group gets. Now, one of the things that we talk about within the sociology of religion are the concepts of sacred and secular. And these are important to have in your notes as well. The sacred church is an institution that lies within the secular world. Sacred is arbitrary. What is sacred to me may or may not be sacred to you. And this brings back the idea of symbolism. We attach specific meaning to certain symbols, to certain things. And some of this is based on our religious beliefs, others not so much. So sacred is anything that we treat with reverence or with respect. A symbol that comes to mind would be the cross. A lot of Christians revere the cross because it symbolizes a lot of things, a lot of deep, meaningful, poignant things. The death of Christ, His love for us, It may represent, him returning to earth someday. It represents a lot of deep, meaningful things. And you can look to other religions; they have sacred symbols as well that may not mean much to us if we are Christians, just as maybe our cross wouldn't have as much meaning to them within their religion. Not that one is better than the other necessarily. Now, the secular is anything of the physical world. Your car, your laptops, your phones, your homes, the idea of materialism, getting all the stuff you can get. These are secular things. And the sacred, the things we assign as sacred, will exist within the secular world. Now, just for a second, just to kind of make this point one more time. If I went out, and I tell my kids this and they laugh at me and they think I'm crazy, I tell my students, what about this? What if I go outside after class, or I go out into my yard, and I find, let's assume we're at your school, and I go out onto the property at your school when school lets out, so everybody's out catching the bus or driving home, and I find a piece of wood from a tree. I don't know, it's just a piece of wood. I pick it up and I snap it in two in front of everybody. You're probably going to think, well, what's Mr. Dean doing? He's kind of crazy. Maybe we should drop his class because he's out here snapping twigs on school property. You probably would not be offended by that. You would just think it would be strange to see that. Now, same wood, same material. If I go into your church or into a church in your neighborhood, and I walk up in front of the congregation, pick up the wooden cross that's in your church, and I snapped it in two, what kind of reaction would I get? Probably a lot different. The reaction would be a lot different than just me snapping twigs at your school. Well, it's the same thing. It's made of wood. It's made of the same thing, but that cross made of wood symbolizes something. It symbolizes a lot of important things to Christians. So to desecrate the cross or to destroy an image of the cross is very offensive because it is sacred. It exists in the secular world. The wood exists in the secular world, but the cross itself is sacred. Now, we have some talk about these things called isms. Are isms religion? Well, what am I talking about? I'm talking about communism, socialism, nationalism. Not really. And here's why. Because communism, for example, we're talking about really an ideology, or socialism. We'll pick on nationalism. Nationalism, national pride, Pledge of Allegiance, American flag, love of country. These are all nationalistic things, okay? Nationalism. These aren't really religions, though, because religion involves the idea of the sacred and the supernatural. And there's nothing supernatural. We could say definitely sacred. Go back to nationalism. The American flag is a sacred symbol to people, and I get that. It is to me as well. But there's no supernatural element involved with any of these, especially nationalism. But what is the supernatural? Well, this is where religion starts to separate from science. If something is supernatural, we're talking about a power or being not subject to the laws of the observable universe. Our idea of God, for example. People say that they see God, they feel God, they communicate with God, but can we really put our hands on Him? Can we see Him? Can He sit down and drink a cup of coffee with us? Not exactly. So this isn't something, we believe that He exists, right? But we can't really prove with our eyes, with our traditional five senses, that He does. So He is not subject to the laws of the observable universe. So that's what sets religion apart from these other isms like communism and socialism and nationalism. So these are ideologies. An ideology is a set of values and beliefs that people are expected to subscribe to, believe in without question. We're expected to believe in nationalism, like we talked about. We're expected to believe in capitalism, free trade, being able to make as much money as possible. We believe in these things explicitly. Let's go ahead and call that the end of the second part here for religion. Thank you.